Hi there, bright hearts. Tonight's stories are about a quiet kind of strength called courage. Courage isn't just for heroes with capes or lions with loud roars. Courage is what helps us try new things, stand up for others, and be true to ourselves. Snuggle in now because our first brave friend is about to arrive. This story is called The Brave Little Button Who Faced the Wind. Once upon a windy evening, when the stars were just waking up and the moon peeked through sleepy clouds, there lived a tiny blue button named Benny. Benny wasn't just any button. He lived in a soft velvet sewing basket on the top shelf of Miss Thimble's tailor shop, right beside a spool of golden thread and a pincushion shaped like a strawberry. Benny was the smallest button in the basket, just the size of a blueberry jelly bean, and he sparkled faintly when the sunlight snuck through the curtains. He loved stories, especially stories about brave buttons who held together coats that climbed snowy mountains, or danced on the edge of pirate sleeves, or explored deep jungles sown with adventure. But Benny had a secret. He was terribly afraid of the wind. Whenever the window creaked open and the breeze rolled in, Benny would squeak and dive under the thread spool. Whoosh! The wind tickled, tousled, and tugged at everything. It made the basket lid tremble, the curtains flap, and sometimes even scattered the thimbles across the floor. Benny would quiver and say, "What if I get blown away? What if I roll under the table? Or worse, the rug monster finds me?" The other buttons would clink and giggle, especially the big brass ones who used to live on navy coats. But one friend always came to comfort him. Pippa, a patch of soft flannel shaped like a heart. She'd gently rest beside him and say, "Bravery doesn't mean not feeling afraid, Benny. It means being afraid and choosing to try anyway." That made Benny blink and think. Days passed, and Benny watched from the basket as people came and went. He saw shiny boots, swinging braids, hats with feathers, and once, a dog in a raincoat. He dreamed about seeing the world, stitching stories onto a jacket, coat, or cozy sweater. But each time the wind whispered near, Benny tucked himself a little deeper into the basket, until one very breezy afternoon, something unexpected happened. The wind was stronger than usual. It whooshed in like a great sigh from the sky and lifted the sewing basket's lid with a clap. Buttons tumbled, threads flew, and Benny, who had been balancing near the edge, was scooped right into the air. He spun through the shop like a flying coin, whee! Then landed with a plink on the windowsill. "Oh no," Benny gasped. "The wind got me." He looked around. The basket was far behind him. He could see all of Mrs. Thimble's sewing tools laid out on the table, and outside, the big, brave world. His little button legs wobbled. "I have to get back," he whispered. "I'm not ready to fly." But just then, he heard a voice outside the window. A little girl, no more than 7 or 8, stood with her jacket in her hands. It was a red explorer's coat, just like the one in Benny's dreams. But something was wrong. "Oh, my favorite button fell off," she said with a sigh. "Now I can't close it all the way." Benny's heart leapt. "She needs a new button," he whispered. Then he blinked, and he thought, could it be? Was he the right button? She looked at the breeze as it curled and danced like a ribbon. The wind didn't seem scary now. It looked like it was waiting for him. He took a deep breath in and a soft breath out. Then he said, as bravely as any button could say, I am safe, I am strong, I am brave. And with that, he jumped. The wind caught him like a gentle hand and Benny soared. He tumbled once, twice, then plop, right into the girl's open palm. She giggled. Oh, where did you come from, little blue button? She looked up and saw the open window and whispered, Magic. Inside, Miss Thimble helped her sew Benny onto the red coat, right near the top, right over her heart. You're stitched on nice and strong, Miss Thimble said kindly. You'll go far, little button. And oh, he did. Benny saw green fields and city streets. He visited splashy puddles and sunny gardens. He heard bedtime giggles, library whispers, and songs sung to butterflies. And every time the wind whooshed across the world, Benny smiled, because he had faced his fear. He had followed his heart, and now he was a part of someone's story, just like he always dreamed. That little button was so brave, wasn't he? Now, let's meet a tiny gnome with a very big heart, who teaches us how one little step at a time can lead to amazing things. Get cozy as we listen to Nora the Gnome and the Shaky Bridge. In a mossy corner of Tumblebell Hollow, beneath a tangle of toadstools and twinkling firefly lights, lived a very tiny gnome named Nora. Nora was no taller than a dandelion stem and wore a pointy pink hat that drooped just a little at the tip. She loved making dandelion tea, painting pebbles with polka dots, and reading adventure tales beside her mushroom lamp. But there was one thing Nora did not love: the Shaky Bridge. The Shaky Bridge was a twisty wooden rope bridge that stretched across the babbling Cuttlebug Creek. It connected her side of the forest to the other side, where the moonberries grew. And oh, the moonberries! They were soft and sweet and glowed faintly when the moon was full. All the other gnomes had crossed the bridge at least once. Even the twins Nib and Nab, who were barely older than pine cones. But not Nora. Every time she looked at the bridge, her tummy did a little flip-flop. What if it wiggles too much? What if I fall through a crack? What if I get stuck in the middle and the wind sings too loud? She always turned around and tiptoed back home. Now, Nora wasn't alone in her fear. Her best friend Wibble the frog didn't like the bridge either. He preferred staying near puddles and catching bugs on the safe side. But one breezy morning, something unexpected happened. Wibble had been floating a paper boat down Cuttlebug Creek. He gave it a big push, and whoosh! It floated under the Shaky Bridge and toward the other side. Without thinking, Wibble leapt after it. Bloop, pop, bloop. He splashed across some stones and then realized he was on the wrong side of the creek. Oh no, croaked Wibble. This isn't home. From her garden, Nora heard his little voice call out, Nora, I'm stuck. I don't know how to get back. Nora peeked out from behind her daisy bush. She could see Wibble hopping nervously along the edge of the other bank. Oh dear, she whispered. He's scared. He needs me. She looked up at the Shaky Bridge. The wind whistled through the leaves, making it wobble just a little. Her tummy fluttered again. Then she remembered what her Granny Gnome once said. Courage is a step, even when your boots wobble. So Nora took a deep breath in and a slow breath out. and she whispered to herself, "I can take one tiny step." And she did. Step by wobbly step, Nora placed one little boot in front of the other. The wood creaked, the wind whispered. A ladybug flew past her hat. But Nora kept going. With each step, she whispered, "I am safe, I am small, but my heart is strong and tall." Halfway across, her knees trembled a bit, so she paused and held onto the rope railing made of twine. "I am nervous, but I am brave," she said gently, and then she took the next step. When she finally reached the other side, Wibble's eyes grew wide. "Nora, you did it!" "I did," she giggled, a little out of breath. "And now I'm here to help you." She offered her tiny gnome hand. Wibble hesitated. The bridge swayed gently. "Let's go together," Nora said. So they did, very, very slowly. With each step, they whispered together, "We are safe, we are small, but our hearts are strong and tall." When they reached the other side again, Nora and Wibble fell into the soft grass and laughed and laughed. The bridge didn't seem so scary now. In fact, it looked a little like a swing in the sky. From that day forward, whenever someone in Tumble Hollow needed courage, they'd find a note near the bridge, written in tiny gnome handwriting. One step is all it takes. Nora showed us that even a shaky bridge can't stop a brave heart. Now, let's dive under the sea, where a shy little starfish named Stanley is about to discover just how strong and wonderful he truly is. Float along with me into the day Stanley the starfish left his rock. Far below the sparkling blue waves, in a cozy coral reef, lived a shy little starfish named Stanley. Stanley's world was calm and safe. He had his favorite mossy rock to sit on. He had friendly crabs that scuttled by every morning. And he had the gentle sway of seaweed to watch as he dozed. Stanley loved his rock. He loved it so much, in fact, that he never left it. Not even when the dolphin parade splashed by, flipping and playing. Not even when the jellyfish floated like lanterns through the coral caves. Stanley would just smile, wave a tiny arm, and snuggle deeper onto his cozy rock. Sometimes he wondered, what would it be like out there, beyond my rock, beyond my bubbles? But then he would think, it's too far, too big, too much. And he would wiggle back into place. One sunny morning, a little bubble drifted by. Inside the bubble was something very curious, a message. Stanley squinted with all 5 of his tiny arms to read it. "You are stronger than you think." Stanley blinked once, twice. Was the ocean talking to him? He looked around. No one else seemed to notice the bubble. Stanley tapped his chin thoughtfully. Maybe, just maybe, he was ready to try something new. He took a deep breath through his tiny starfish mouth and slowly, gently, slid one sticky arm off his rock. Then another. And then, very carefully, Stanley floated up into the ocean's soft current. It carried him like a sleepy lullaby. The world beyond his rock was amazing. He floated past rainbow corals shaped like birthday cakes. He peeked into tiny caves where glittering shrimp threw bubble parties. He played a game of tag with the wiggly school, a fish that shimmered like a moving disco ball. Stanley laughed so hard, bubbles flew out of his mouth in a fizzy giggle. For the first time ever, Stanley didn't feel stuck. He felt free. But adventure wasn't over yet. In a patch of golden seagrass, Stanley spotted a tiny, trembling shape. It was a baby seahorse, no bigger than a seashell. "I can't find my family," said the little seahorse with a watery sniffle. Stanley's heart bloomed wide and warm. He remembered how scared he had felt to leave his rock. He remembered how one small bubble gave him courage. He whispered to the seahorse, "You are stronger than you think." He reached out an arm, and together they floated through the currents, past the twirling jellyfish and the singing shells, until they found the seahorse's family, swishing joyfully near a patch of blue coral. The little seahorse hugged Stanley tight with its curly tail. "Thank you," it whispered. Stanley felt like he was glowing brighter than the sunbeams overhead. From that day on, Stanley didn't stay glued to one rock. He still loved his cozy moss spot, of course, but now he floated, explored, and helped others find their way. All because he took one tiny squish step into something new. Stanley showed us how courage can take us on brand new adventures. Now, let's head to a glowing rainforest where a song waits for someone brave enough to hear it. This story is Nia and the Night Song. In the heart of a lush, leafy rainforest where toucans chattered and orchids danced in the breeze, there lived a little kinkajou named Nia. Nia had silky golden fur, wide, curious eyes, and a secret she kept tucked deep inside. You see, Nia was afraid of the dark. By day, she was brave and bold, swinging from vines, playing hide and seek with monkeys, and sipping nectar from hibiscus blossoms. But as soon as the sun dipped below the treetops and shadows stretched across the canopy, Nia's tummy would flutter like a frightened butterfly. "Come out and stargaze," the tree frogs would call. "Let's catch fireflies," the fruit bats would cheer. But Nia always found an excuse. "I have to organize my leaf collection," she'd say. "I need to brush my fur 300 times, she'd add. One evening, as the forest began its sleepy lullaby, buzzing bugs, croaking frogs, and soft rustling leaves, Nia sat alone in her cozy tree hollow. She pulled her blanket tighter and peeked out into the moonlit jungle. That's when she heard it, a sound she'd never heard before. A soft, glowing melody floating through the trees like a ribbon of stars. It was gentle, mysterious, and beautiful. "The night song," whispered an old iguana perched nearby. "It only appears once every blue moon. It brings dreams to life, but only those brave enough to follow it will hear its final verse." Nia's heart beat faster. She felt the pull of the song. Her paws tingled. She looked out into the dark, unsure and trembling. "I'm not brave enough," she whispered. But then she remembered something her abuela used to say. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you take one small step anyway." So Nia took one small step out of her hollow, then another, and another. She followed the song, padding along mossy branches, slipping between sleepy orchids, and listening with her whole heart. The rainforest was glowing under the moonlight, silver and green, full of life and wonder. There were moments her fear bubbled up, when an owl hooted or when vines brushed her fur, but she kept moving. breathing, listening. At last, deep in the forest's heart, she found it. A glowing glade, bathed in moonlight. Fireflies danced in spirals. Flowers that only bloomed at night stretched open to sing. And there, sitting in a circle, were all the nighttime creatures, frogs, bats, beetles, and more, singing the final verse of the night song. They made space for her. Nia stepped into the circle. Her voice was shaky at first, but then it grew stronger, brighter, braver. She sang, and the night song welcomed her. From that night on, Nia still had moments of fear, but she knew she could be brave one step at a time, and every blue moon, she would lead the night song herself, helping other creatures find their courage too. You see, Brightheart, courage isn't about being the biggest or the loudest. It's about showing up, even when you're a little wobbly, and trusting that your heart shines bright enough to light the way. Now snuggle in, let your dreams sail and float, and remember, you are brave, you are kind, and you are deeply, deeply loved. Good night, sweet dreamer. Until next time.